Welcome to this video on Visual Studio Code 1.108 that was released in January 2026. I will talk about new GitHub Copilot related features in Visual Studio Code. In the previous video I told you that skills became available in GitHub Copilot, and with skills you can describe a very specific procedure that you want to get Copilot acquainted with. And the great thing about skills is, unlike in the case of custom instructions, you can have multiple skills applied in the same session that you have with GitHub Copilot. And that's a great thing. And apart from that, these skills are portable. If you use, for example, the background agent or use the coding agent on github.com, they work there as well. And that doesn't apply to all types of custom instructions. So yeah, it's a great addition. And in the 1.107 update, the video that appeared before this, I already introduced the skills. And at that time we could only add skills in the .clode folder. So .clode and then skills, and the way to add it is you add a folder inside of skills with the name of the skill, in this case flight log, and that's where you could describe in skill.md the skill. But with 1.108 we are able to enter the skills in the .github folder. And then within the .github folder, there's a skills folder, and I created a skill here to create a controller. We have a C# Web API project here. I do have 2 controllers, but I have 4 models, and I would like to add a new model or a new controller for the models that don't have a controller yet. That's why I wrote this skill. So if I click the skill, you can see what's set up here. It has a front matter header that contains a name that describes the skill, and then the description that has a more extensive description of the skill. It's really important to put here in natural language words that help Copilot identify which skill to use. So as you can see, what I did here is I tell it triggers on requests like create a new controller for entity name. And then when you type that command in your chat, Copilot will recognize that and then use that skill in the session. Of course, there is Markdown that explains what the skill does. So this is more or less a repetition of what is in the first part, and then I instructed which steps to take to implement the controller. To know which skills are available, you can actually ask Copilot. So let me close this skill. I'm here in agent mode. I'm using CloudSonnet 4.5 in this case, but the model shouldn't matter too much, although I see that the recognition of the skills can work better or worse with certain models. So if I ask it what skills do you have available, it's going to check out the skills directories. It will check out both the clode as well as .github folder, and as you can see, it found both of the skills that I have available. So that's great. Now let's move into a new chat and let's ask it to implement a controller for the airfield model. So if I move into the Write Models API and then into the controllers folder, you can see that I have a flights controller and a planes controller. But if I go into the models, you can see that I also have an airfield model. It contains name, location, dates of use, and significance. So that's the model I would like to create a controller for. So let's see if it detects the skill right, and then if it implements according to the expectations. As you can see here, I'm using CloudSonnet 4.5 and it will expose some thinking, and as you can see, it actually read the skill file. And it read the airfield model because I instructed it to get that airfield model. It's reading documentation, and soon it will set up, there we go, an airfields controller. And as you can see, it correctly sets up the controller as an API controller. It included a logger, that's something I asked it to, and it included some nice example data. So that's great. It's actually following all of the instructions I did. Also the methods I would expect here, it implemented those. I can see that. So yeah, I see these skills as a really valuable addition, and certainly if you're working both with Copilot in your IDE as well as the background agent, as well as the coding agent on GitHub.com. The sessions view has been updated already quite a few times. And the sessions view, I mean the chat sessions. And if you take a look at the side-by-side view, you might notice that there are some differences. One of the differences is that they are now grouped on a date basis. So you can see today, last week, and older. And some hidden feature is that you can double-click to collapse and expand them. And you can, of course, navigate through them using the arrow keys up and down, and you can space to select them and go over them. And you can also press the space bar on a grouping, and that would collapse or expand that specific grouping. What else we have is that when there are unkept changes, you can actually see how many changes there have been. In this case, there were 2 additions and 80 removals. You can see that this one was executed in the background agent, and this one is executed in the cloud agent. And of course, you can always go back to them, although this one might be already removed. It's not, but okay. So that's a change here, and what you can also do with these groupings is you can archive all of the chats in an entire group. So I can click this button and it would archive all of the chats that are older than last week. So I think that's a good addition. Yeah, and then what you, if you want to know more about how to use the keyboard in this view, you can right-click any of the chats here, and that would open up the context menu where you can see how you can open them up. And there's also the rename option to rename this specific session, and you can archive them by pressing the delete button on your keyboard. Although the update, the release notes say that you can mark read and unread using the keyboard. I have not found the keyboard shortcut for that, but it could be that this is something you need to bind yourself. I'm not sure about that, but then you know at least that it should be there somewhere. To be honest, I didn't know that this feature was there. But if you're in a chat and it already created a title, you can click that title and you can pick a different agent session. So here you get a quick overview of your history. And what they changed is that the titles of these sessions that you see in this list should now be the same as the titles in the regular history. You can also see that these sessions were all local. You can tell by the icon. The ones with the Git branch icon are background sessions, and the ones with the cloud are, of course, the coding agent sessions that have happened on GitHub.com. So yeah, it's a nice way of switching between sessions. I can just click it and it would take me to the other session. So just by clicking on the title, it would take you to this quick pick list. Previously, when you opened Visual Studio Code, it would turn back to the last chat that you were working with. By now, that behavior has changed, and by default, it shows an empty chat, a new chat. If you want to restore this behavior, there is a setting for that. And that setting is called chat.restore last panel session. If you enable this, it will restore the last session and you can continue where you left off if you prefer that. Automatically approving certain terminal commands executed by the coding agent is something that really helps speed up the work of the coding agent. Sometimes it needs to execute a lot of terminal commands, and most of them are safe to run, but some of them aren't. So that's why there is a distinction between things that could be auto-approved and things that can't. There is a setting for that called enable auto-approve. And by default it's off, and the first time you hit something in the terminal that you should approve, you get the option to enable auto-approve. When you enable auto-approve, there is another setting. So if we search for approve and we scroll down, we can see that there is a setting terminal auto-approve, and it is a list of commands which are automatically run if auto-approve is set to true. The list is not complete here in the UI, so you will need to go into the settings.json and there take a look at what is there. And as you can see, it's quite a list. And this list it was already there, but some of the items are new in this list. And some of them is, of course, I don't know them by heart, but git ls files is one of them, rg is one of them, outstring is one of them, set is one of them. So if you want to see all of them, it's about 6 or 7 that are new. Please check the documentation, but this is at least the full list, of which quite a lot was already there. So that means that, for example, oh yeah, that's maybe interesting to see. You see some of them are set to true and some of them are set to false. The ones set to false, that means that they can never be set to auto-approve. And that makes sense, right? Because for things like RM, I would always like to have an approval before it runs an RM. But yeah, I don't care so much when it's just, for example, get location, which reads the current location, the current directory. So yeah, that's what this is for. And in addition to this, there is another setting that I would like to show you that is very much related to this, which is for people using npm, pnpm, and yarn. So this new setting ensures that the commands for npm, yarn, and pnpm are run without approval. And the reason is, and that is as long as they are defined in the package.json file. That is because to be able to use agent mode, you need to trust your workspace. And then they assume that all scripts that are defined in the package.json are considered safe anyway to run without explicit approval. If you don't like this, of course, you can switch it off, but by default it is on now. The last thing I would like to show you about these auto-approve things is that now you can see why you get an approval for a certain task. So if I would ask Copilot to use bash to remove the readme.md file, it will trigger a terminal command, and that shouldn't be approved, of course. And as you can see, it asks me to allow this. And you can see why the auto approval was denied. It is by the rule rm user, and I can click it, and that would take me to the chat.tools.terminal.auto-approve setting, where I should be able to find something like rm. Of course, it is there, and it's set to false, indicating that it cannot be set to auto-allow. Continuing on auto-approve, there is some more that I would like to show you, and that is for future auto-approve options. So if I ask Copilot to run npm install in the terminal, I get the nice allow box. If I click allow, it would immediately just allow this once, and next time I ask it, it would ask me for approval again. But the list has been expanded. So what I can do is allow npm install ... meaning that anything that comes after that is also allowed. Keep in mind that you could also pipe this and add other commands, so this can be potentially a risky situation. In this session, meaning in this conversation, in this chat conversation, if I start a new one, the approval is gone. I can do it in this workspace, so within the confines of the current directory that I have open, or always allow. And that is again for npm install and anything that comes after that. I can also allow exact command line, meaning if it's exactly npm install, then I would allow it. Any other case, you know, npm install and then package name, that wouldn't be allowed. And again, you get that for session workspace and always. So, and the other options were already there. So yeah, that has been improved again. This is a terminal feature I'm really happy with. So the previous behavior in terminal, when GitHub Copilot would execute terminal commands, it would add it to the history. So let's have Copilot execute a terminal command to show you the way it used to work. As you can see, it creates a hidden terminal, a hidden chat terminal that we can reveal, of course. So I can click it and then choose this terminal session. And if I would press arrow up to retrieve command from the history, it would retrieve the get child item. And that is not something I want. Because I don't want Copilot to clutter my terminal history. So that's why they added a nice little setting, and it's called the chat.tools.terminal.prevent shell history. And if you check that, it means that Copilot will not clutter your shell history. And the great thing is you don't need that shell history from Copilot, because you can always look back in your Copilot chat history. And the way it works is different per shell basis. So as you can see, depending here on the shell, if you use bash, for example, it says sets hist control to ignore space and prepends the command with space. And yeah, that helps not including that command in history. So really happy with this, and for sure I will leave this enabled. The default of this setting is enabled, so from now on by default the Copilot terminal commands will not be visible in the history of your terminal. Thanks for watching this update. I hope you liked it. It was short this time, which is maybe nice, not to take so much time from you. So thanks for watching and hope to see you next time.